G'day guys, Tom here from Different Drop. Thanks very much for stopping by. Very excited about our feature winery today. We're talking about Moppity Vineyards. As Sydney-siders, we always get pretty excited when we come across New South Wales vino of this sort of calibre, and it doesn't get much better than Moppity. 5 red stars, James Halliday, Campbell Mattinson labelled you, I think, a rising star of top-end Australian wine, and just cleaning up left, right and centre with an awesome range of wines. With us we have owner, winemaker, part-time male model, and all-round good bloke, Jason Brown, to talk about Moppity. So, mate, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and what, mate, I guess, again, really exciting what's happening with the wines. Where did it begin? What's your philosophy with the range, and where do you see it going in the future?
Well, in coming into winemaking and wine growing, I was looking to be at the edge in some way, playing around with something that was different, emerging. And for me, one of the most exciting things occurring in the wine industry at that time, and still now even more so, was the emergence of New South Wales and the redefining of New South Wales as a wine-producing state. So we've sort of always known New South Wales to be the Hunter Valley and Riverina on either side of the Great Dividing Range. But for me, what was most fascinating was what was going on the western slopes of the Great Dividing Range. So these small regions from Orange through Canberra, Murray-Bateman, Hilltops, and down to Tumbarumba that are much cooler, high-altitude regions that are producing wines more in the style of Victorian or cool South Australian than the sort of traditional New South Wales wines. And so for me, Hilltops is a great place to go because I thought here's a region that can do, I believe, some really astonishingly good Shiraz, but the world wasn't aware of it. And I thought we could bring something to the table that wasn't already being explored in wine. And I think that was the exciting thing for me. I didn't want to just do the same old, the tried and true, but to maybe press the boundaries a little bit. So that was Shiraz. And I think what we've been able to achieve with Shiraz in the Hilltops has been a style that I think is unique in a lot of ways. It's fragrant and spicy, perfumed and floral, but still has this great generosity of flavour, but plush, silky tannin, so really textural wine. For me, I sort of refer to it as Barossa meets Grampian.
Sure.
You've got the best of both worlds of warmer climate and cool climate.
Yeah. And I think certainly with the reserve Shiraz, so this over here is Jason's Reserve, I think the 2009 vintage. So 97 points, James Halliday, and for mine is up there in that sort of Clonakilla territory for ultimate expression of Australian cool climate Shiraz. That's a Northern Rhone style Shiraz. Now you're starting to do things with Cabernet, with Merlot, with some other varieties. Is that where you think there's a real opportunity for Hilltops as well, or do you think Shiraz is the strength?
Well, funnily enough, when I moved to the Hilltops, talk of the town was Cabernet. And the local producers saw it as a Cabernet region. I think Halliday referred to it at that point as being a Cabernet region, whereas I believed it was Shiraz. And we bought the vineyard in the Hilltops because it had these beautiful 40-year-old Shiraz vines, not old in the context of some of the older regions in South Australia and the Hunter, but in the context of southern New South Wales, they're very old vines. So I thought we could do some really great Shiraz, and that's what I was more fascinated in. And to be honest, I probably neglected the Cabernet a little bit. It just wasn't my thing. 2012, I just thought, we've done so well with Shiraz, why don't we just put a bit of focus and energy into Cabernet? So we started what we called Operation Cabernet in 2012, and the goal was within 5 years to be making Cabernet that was as good as our Shiraz. And we started winning trophies from 2012. I think we've made great leaps and bounds in that direction. And I think now our Cabernet is every bit as good as our Shiraz.
We just had a look at the 2013 Cabernet and previously the Lock and Key Reserve Cabernet, and they're outstanding. They've got a great varietal character, real plushness of fruit, but really approachable, not too green. And an exciting wine as well, a Shiraz Cabernet blend.
Oh, Cabernet Shiraz. So that's our new Atticus. And to be honest, it's one that I have wanted to do for a long time in Hilltops, because Cabernet and Shiraz are two varieties that do exceptionally well in the region. I just needed to find a year where we had great Cabernet in the same year as we had great Shiraz. And 2013 was it. So we've done a 60-40. It's called Atticus, which is Latin for classic. And this is really it pays homage to the great classic Australian red blend, Cabernet Shiraz. And it's a real unsung hero.
It's unreal.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. And I guess as well with the whites, Chardonnay, it's probably where your focus is or has been. And And I'm a huge fan of the Moppity Chardonnays and Lock and Key Chardonnays. Real tight structure, Chablis-esque, but with plenty of fruit. Tumbarumba is a region getting a lot of raps for Chardonnay. Where do you sort of see its future?
Talk about hilltops being exciting, or these emerging regions in southern New South Wales being exciting, but really Tumbarumba is one of the greatest things to hit the Australian wine scene, I think, for a very, very long time. It's the coldest viticultural precinct on the mainland, so that really sets it apart. Yeah, it is, yeah. In fact, in heat degree days, so the measure of climate in viticulture, it's the same measure of heat degree days as Central Otago in New Zealand. So you're talking the same sort of temperature as northern Tasmania.
Yep.
Ultra cool. So foothills of the Snowy Mountains, 70 kilometres from Mount Selwyn. So for the skiers, not far away. Quick stopover point for us when we're going skiing. Look, I love Chardonnay, but I did learn very early on in hilltops that it's not a great place for Chardonnay. So we started looking further afield. We've grafted most of our Chardonnay across to other varieties in hilltops. But I started out buying Chardonnay from Tumbarumba in 2008, and then ultimately bought a vineyard down there in 2011. And wow, we can do some great things with Chardonnay there, and really revolutionising the notion of Chardonnay in Australia. Moving away from that sort of old school, big, broad, rich, buttery style of Chardonnay that perhaps turned a lot of consumers off the variety into a leaner, more elegant, more restrained wine with power without aggression.
Love it.
And so that's what we can achieve in Tumbarumba, and there's very exciting things happening down there.
Absolutely. Mate, lastly, I'd love to get your opinion. You've got a big background in retail as well, with modern sort of Australian wine retail. Where do you see that kind of going? We're seeing a lot of smaller guys pop up. We're seeing the big guys consolidate. Do you think it's an opportunity for smaller guys to get a foothold with premium stuff, or is it just too hard, I guess, fighting against the big powers?
Oh, look, I think really the big powers will always have a role to play for the mass market. But I do think the future of wine retail, probably retail in general, is about relationships. Yeah, wine for me is not a commodity. It's not something for the mass market. It's something that we as winemakers go to a lot of trouble and effort to try and express the unique qualities that come through in our sites. So each one of these wines is expressive in its own way of our little block of dirt. And there's a story inside each one of these bottles, and that story needs to be understood if the wine's to be appreciated. So the mass market streams don't really support that. I think there's a huge role to play for these sort of relationship-based wine retail businesses, like the one that you operate, where you're really connecting with consumers, developing relationships, and developing that sense of trust, so that you can communicate the story, our story that we poured into this wine, and get that across to the consumer. I think that really is the future of retail, particularly for the top end wine in Australia.
Mate, congratulations again. The wines are across the board outstanding, great value for money, real range of styles, and just seem to get better and better each vintage. So, good things to come. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks very much, Tom. It's you're like the David Letterman of the wine industry at the moment.
Working on it, mate.
Terrific to be on the show.
Unreal. Thanks, mate.
Thanks very much, mate.
Cheers.